Alright, let's do this.
Mr. Lee.
Hello folks, Mario's here. In today's video I will be playing Batman Arkham Knight in VR in first person. In today's video I will be covering my vorpX profile. I made a profile based on another user's profile, explicitly aimed at the first-person mod for this game. And I will talk about the first-person mod, where you can get it, and what you have to pay attention to when using this mod, because there's a couple of things you have to think about actually. I will be playing with a mod or software that should work with all vorpX games and hopefully benefit more than just this game, but it's really good to play Batman Arkham Knight with, and that is something called JoyToKey, which allows you to use keyboard and mouse on your Xbox controller. So I'll talk a little bit about that later on, why that is necessary, and some general issues and workarounds for Batman Arkham Knight, because I actually had to work really hard with this game to get it to run well, not crash for me, and be enjoyable to play. So this actually took a while. I've been at it for weeks by now. Looking forward to sharing with you guys what I found. Let's do this. Okay folks, so let's dive into this. First things first, you'll of course need a copy of the game. I bought the game on Steam. And when you have a copy of Batman Arkham Knight, you will need to know how to access your local game files. And there are specifically some files you need to know where to find. So for me, I get this when I choose my little cogwheel. I can go to Browse Local Files, right? This thing here, BM Game. What you go ahead and do is, in here, you want to take a backup of the config folder. The reason why you want to do this is when you install your vorpX profile, or when you boot up your vorpX profile, vorpX creates some things inside the config folder and adjusts some scripts. And when it does that, it breaks the first-person mod. So every time you've played using the first-person mod, you actually have to delete the config folder entirely and replace it. So I'm going to show you now. Now inside BM Game, this is in my Steam Apps folder, right? I'm deleting the whole thing. You can't just replace it, because then it keeps the files that were there from before. So here we go. Head in here. This thing, config, I've backed up. I even have an extra backup if necessary. So that is one of the things you have to do to be able to enjoy this game. So what I had to do as well, before I backed up my config file, because you have to do this inside your config file, I made a couple of backups of the BM input INI. So that out of the way, we'll move on now to vorpX. For those of you who do not know what vorpX is a software that allows you to play normal flat screen games in VR. And vorpX has many official profiles for different well-known video games, such as Batman Arkham Knight. As well, there are a lot of profiles in vorpX made by people in the community, people like me and other people who know the software pretty well, because you can create your own profiles in vorpX as well. vorpX supports more than 250 DirectX 9 to 12 games and some OpenGL titles in stereo 3D. So that is proper 3D. So to get vorpX, you have to click buy vorpX, because this costs money, and it actually costs a little bit. It costs about as much as a normal flat screen game. So it is a little bit expensive, but if you play a lot of VR like I do believe it's worth it if you're really into VR, because you can pretty much play any and every game in vorpX. So what you do is you pay, of course, and then you'll receive a key to unlock vorpX. So you can download it after buying it, but then you have to wait like an hour or something, I don't know, for the creator to send you a key to unlock the software. I can't remember exactly how the process is, but it's really simple. Next point on our list is to talk about the profile we're using for vorpX. So we're actually going to use a profile that I made, this Marirari89 profile, but I made this profile based off of the profile made by this person here, calling himself George Lucas, as we see. And if we read the description here, he specifically says this was made for the first person mod. He adjusted his FOV to 100. It's best used in combination with JoyToKey. So it was because of this user that I actually found out about JoyToKey. Great software to use with vorpX. He recommends here to use JoyToKey to map certain of the buttons you use in the first person mod to your controller. However, I don't think you should map every button, because that can create some issues. But what I did is I mapped 2 buttons. That is to jump into first person perspective and to jump out of first person perspective. And I actually went a little bit farther than that, because the thing about Batman is that it uses all your buttons. I'm gonna open up the old Batman input INI script, because I had to adjust the script here, and I got rid of every instant of the left and right D-pad buttons being used, because you only use those to bring up like your AR missions and some stuff like that you totally do not need most of the time while gaming. So if we go ahead and search here, so you search for D-pad while inside your BM input. I'm inside the backup now that I made, so I can show you this. Search for D-pad. And here you see D-pad left. What I did when I found something like this, where it says D-pad left, all of this, what I would do is I would take all of this and delete it. And I would move on down. Search for the next thing. D-pad right. Delete. Next one. If you're wondering how I'm searching for words, you just hold down Control, press F on your keyboard, and then you can search for different words. So up, I'm not using anything with up. Down, that one can stay. Left, get rid of it. D-pad left. Next one. D-pad right, get rid of it. Right, move on. Next word, up can stay, D-pad down can stay, D-pad left and D-pad right, you see? Get rid of them. That's the process. And then, is there any more? No, that's it. That's all the words with, or all the lines of code with D-pad in them. I'm not gonna save this because this is my backup. But if we go in here, there is no D-pad left or D-pad right. in the script the game is using, because I've gotten rid of it all. And that is so that I can use my Xbox controller and click left or right to jump in and out of first-person perspective. Another thing which is important, I'm going to bring up JoyToKey. This is a free software that you can find by going to JoyToKey.net. Link is in the description. And this allows you to map certain keyboard and mouse keys to your controller, your Xbox controller. And this is because your head gets locked while you're walking around in Batman Arkham Knight. So you cannot use your head to view your surroundings while walking. That is because if you're using a gamepad, the game thinks that you're using mouse and keyboard because your headset emulates your mouse. So that is the problem. That's why you need JoyToKey. And you cannot just override your right analog stick so that the game thinks that is your mouse. You have to do it with both left analog stick and right analog stick for it to work. So if we find it here we go. I've made two profiles. So I made one for driving your car and another for walking around on foot. So when you're walking around on foot in Batman, I've overridden. Let's see here. I have overridden the my left analog stick with A, D, W, and S, the keyboard buttons you would use to walk with your character. And I've overridden the right analog stick with left on the mouse and right on the mouse and up and down on the mouse. And how you go about doing this is that you just double click on whatever you want to adjust, right? So we'll click here and you can choose what do you want to do. Do you want to make a keyboard shortcut or do you want to emulate something on your mouse? So another thing, POV, that is of course my D-pad, since that's the only thing I've done here. O is to, I think that is to enter first person view. I is to exit first person view. Other than that, I have not changed anything because this game already has Xbox controls, a control scheme. So you don't need to override anything else. I found out which keyboard shortcuts do different things in Batman Arkham Knight, and I found that there's no button for stances. You have to hold down your right trigger to sneak or bend down, and that does not work when you're using vorpX on the first person mod. Then it gets confused because you're telling the game at the same time that you're using your mouse and keyboard as well, right? When you're moving your head and when you're walking around. So here I had to map a stance button, which is on the keyboard, to my controller. So now when I press down the crouch button, which is the right trigger, my Batman character changes his stance. So I only have to press it once and then it works just fine. The only problem is when you have to hold it down, you know? So that's another thing that's good to do. But as you see, I've made two profiles. I made a separate one for driving my car, and here the only thing which is mapped is entering and exiting first person perspective. And that is quite important because it's really finicky to drive a car with the on-foot profile, because you can drive your car with your analog stick. So this interferes when you're trying to turn with your stick and drive with your right trigger. Now let's head to the first person mod. So I'll put a link to this mod in the description. Installing it is really simple. You just click download, and then some advertisement pops up and something, right? We don't care about that. Head to this. It's a .rar file, so you'll have to have rar. So you need to open your mod, and you'll need to find your DLC folder. Okay, so here we'll need our local files, right? And here you see it says DLC. What you do is you just drag and drop and replace. That's it. The thing about this mod though is so the creator of this mod made a little YouTube video explaining how to use it. So here you can see you can enter your first person perspective with O and exit your first person perspective with I. You can also change your field of view with H, J, K and L. I've actually found for me that J is the one that works best. And you have to do that every single time though. You have to change your field of view. But that you can figure out yourself, whatever works for you, right? So another thing is you can also choose different characters to play as. This, for me, was really buggy. Because the thing is, if I want to exit out of the game, I have a tendency to use Alt F4, right? So it goes a little faster. And that makes you choose Catwoman as a character. And if you do that while in a mission, it has a tendency to break the mission. And the thing with Batman Arkham Knight is that it's a checkpoint-based game. So you don't have any other saves you can go back to. So the only thing you can actually do if this happens is start a new game. So I warn you, stay away from the F keys, Alt F keys like Alt F4, or any of the other F keys, unless you've played through the whole game and you just want to play around a little bit in first person. Because this is mainly an issue if you're in a mission and you do this. Or that is my experience. For the sake of showing you, I will link this as well in my description. Button mapping for Xbox controller in JoyToKey. Very good to look at when you're choosing which buttons you want to override on your Xbox controller. Okay, so here we go. Before we start, we're gonna go into our graphics and take a look here. So by default, max FPS is set to 30, so you will have to change that to 90, right? So you get a smooth experience. Other than that, this should be just fine. Whoops, I forgot about something though. Motion blur. You do not want that on. Turn it off. Okay, so this looks really good, folks. We're gonna try to enter first person and you see how that looks. And we can look around while we're walking. As well as a little bit finicky controls though. The thing is, sometimes you have to press many times to make the game actually do what you tell it to do. Press your buttons many times. That is kind of annoying, but that's just the thing. Sorry about that. So immediately, like looking at yourself being the Batman, that is awesome, right? And the nice thing when I'm playing like I am playing is that I can always change by pressing this. And then I see a headless Batman, but in combat that is necessary. So.
Does that sound like Joker to you? Look, this is how it went down.
Flying around is a little bit finicky too. You actually need to press forward on your D-pad if you want to be able to, on your left stick if you want to be able to move your head while flying, or what's it called? Not flying, I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Alright, let's do this. So, what? So now I changed to a third-person perspective, and I can just as easily change back to first person. Come on, you. Come on there. And I'm having a really smooth experience here. Here you see we're inside the Batmobile. This does not work as well as you probably would like. So here we have to head out and change our JoyToKey profile. That is just so simple as you just double click your JoyToKey profile, the other one, and open up your game again. And everything works, right? Like now there is no issues. Okay, we're gonna leave it at that, folks. There you have it, folks. Batman Arkham Knight in VR in first person. I hope you found today's video useful for you. If so, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. In my personal opinion, I think this is a cool little experience to play around with for a little while. If you can buy the game on sale, sure, try it out. The first person mod does not cost any money, as long as you're willing to do a little bit of research to make it run well. I wouldn't recommend playing through the whole game like this, unless you're a major Batman fan, of course. Yeah. Catch you on the next one.